Okay, so you are saying that cost function is used for the just accommodate the error, and gradient descent is for the reducing the error.
Yes.
Okay, actually, today I was studying, so just I got confused because the formula for cos function is like 1/2m, like theta one, like that only.
Yeah, it is nothing but 1 by 2m of summation of y pred minus y whole square. That y pred sometimes people write it as h theta x. That means hypothesis value. Hypothesis value is nothing but the predicted value. That is
Okay,
y pred.
okay,
Notations in statistics book, no, you will see this kind of notation. So just to understand it, better to just understand the meaning behind the equations. It's easy to remember.
Okay. Uh, can you just hold a second? Just I'm
Yeah.
coming. Just 2 minutes.
actually, I was like today I was studying, so there is a one like one terminology came around, that is hypothesis space.
Hypothesis,
Space, cis.
hypothesis space. I'm not getting that. What's that hypothesis space?
I don't know. I thought I asked you. I would ask you.
We were telling about machine learning hypothesis space. Okay, SPSE.
SPCE, yeah. Hypothesis space.
SPSE.
Hello.
See here, it's nothing but what are the hypotheses set with a machine learning like system. Okay, like all the hypotheses which can like possibly be used in a machine learning system. That is called as hypothesis space.
Okay. So
Are you
again,
like fine? Yeah, tell me.
the cost function is like measuring the error in the
Yes,
particular prediction by Fred,
yes,
and gradient descent is used to reduce the particular error.
yes, yes. Gradient descent is a optimization algorithm. It optimizes the value. It's a
Okay.
optimization algorithm. It can be used to reduce any kind of function's value. Like here we are using cost function and we are trying to reduce the cost function value. And that is internally reducing the error.
Okay. 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 Okay.
Like that. Gradient descent can be used to find out minimum value for any kind of function. Like
Hmm.
mostly those are like derivative functions. It can be
Hmm.
used for any kind of derivative function. Okay. Similarly, here like cost function is a derivative function, and we are trying to like derivative means like when we are changing some values, it's getting affected, right? Like your like when we are changing the values of x b not b1,
Hmm.
the coefficient, it's affecting the cost function like that. Okay, so cost function is a derivative of that equation. That is your linear regression equation.
Okay.
So these are very easy thing. Okay, there is nothing that tough. The only thing is like gradient descent tries to reduce the error. If you are able to reduce the error, that means our model is like much better. Like it will be able to predict much better values. That's the only thing.
Okay.
So for all kind of whatever regression you do, okay, they will have their own cost function, and we'll be reducing the cost function using gradient descent. You can do that, and this gradient descent is also used in deep learning a lot. Okay, in deep learning also, deep learning is like going ahead. It's like advanced part in machine learning. Okay, so that's like support of machine learning. There also in places you will come across gradient descent. So gradient descent will be used in most of the places because it will reduce the error. There also the job is to reduce the error. In machine learning or deep learning, same job, just reduce the error values.
Okay. So, but the process would be same for like all in gradient descent in the all the it would
Yes,
going to
it is same. Gradient descent process is same.
okay. Till this here till now I have just studied matlab, like by me only just covering like theory because the concepts also you have to understand first. See,
Yes,
so
sure.
so that's the reason I just I till now reach I'm till this yeah reach here just
See here, like
actually
statistics.
yeah sorry to disturb you Saru.
Yeah,
Uh,
tell me.
yeah actually I have like seen one article on online only. So whatever you explain me now, that is root mean square error.
Right.
Okay, there have somewhere they have written is a mean absolute percentage error map.
Those are different things. Those
Okay,
are different things.
but formula is they have written as the same only.
Yeah, formula will look like same. Now, if you see like t-test formula, z-test formula, it looks like same. Like I told you, like r square. Okay, r square formula. One place it is one minus SSR by SST, in the other place it is SSR by SST. But the meaning behind the function is different.
Okay,
And lot of things are there like this also. You will have replicated function, like same function is used in different place for different scenario like that. Okay, with
and
different names also you will see.
okay. So generally we like our like real time like we use like linear regression or not?
Yeah, linear regression is very important in real time. This is what you will be using most of the time. If you see any linearity between, there are a lot of things in real time which is linear to one another, like your independent variable and your dependent, like whatever you are trying to study in real time, you will find lot of things will be linear with one another. And in those kind of scenario you will use linear regression. When you see that the relationship between your like x and y is linear, then you will use linear regression. This is one of the most famous algorithm being used everywhere.
Okay, okay. But it used for the only for multiple linear, matlab, like multiple linear only, right?
No, simple linear, multiple. Simple linear problems are not there in real time.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, within multiple linear also, if you want to study like one variable with a dependent variable, like one independent you want to take and one dependent you want to take. In those kind of scenario, like within your study, you can use this. Okay, like that. So see, actually studies like whatever you do analysis in data science and all. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
most of the analysis will be taking almost 3 months, 6 months like that. And in those, you have to analyze each of the individual aspect of your problem statement. So there you have to go through all kind of variables, how each of the variable is related with your dependent. So there you have to go ahead with like linear, simple linear, multiple linear. Okay, might be multiple algorithms will be there within one single project like that.
Okay.
But are you finding it like easy? Are you able to understand or anything you need from my side, or you need to focus on something which is needed? like some
Uh,
part of
no,
the
I'm
training
till,
which you,
ti- uh, apart from the study part,
yeah.
till now the concept wise is like I'm getting it. There's a no issue in that. Okay. Yesterday part a little bit like I don't know. I'm not able to catch up, like match up with the like what I have studied like previous in the previous classes.
Okay.
So there was some confusion. So might be I'll like study, or you already told me you were going to some recap on that today. So
Yeah,
might be then study. If I have face any doubt, then I'll definitely come back to you.
yeah, yeah. So see here, whatever we are reading, like everything is mostly statistics. Okay, statistics is the core here. Like in data science, it's all about statistics. Okay, and here more like basically all ready-made models are there. People will be using all ready-made models to like use the things, but actually here statistical concept clearance is very very important because this field is made out of that. So now here basically what we are looking into is right now all statistical formulas like advanced formulas, those are regression, and then we saw like different inferential statistics like hypothesis testing and all. Last class what we did is we were going through regression assumptions. Now
I
first
think
we did
I
regression.
I, I think Kasi has joined.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
Yes.
so we continue. Okay. So see, last class, like we were looking at the assumption of regression. Now, when you do regression, so regression is a very important model, okay, in statistics, in which like you investigate how your x and y is related with one another. So the main motto behind regression is to find out how your relationship is there between your independent variable and dependent variable. So now here like we did linear regression. So in linear regression, we saw okay two types. Like when you have one independent variable, you have simple linear. When you have multiple independent variable, you use multiple linear like that. But equations are very very same. So now here before you do regression you take certain assumptions like you assume that okay these are certain things okay which are there within my data set, so I am going ahead with regression. So those are called as regression assumptions. So those assumptions are nothing but those are like some pre-testing, like you can tell it as some pre-test modules which you have to apply to your data set. Like before going to regression you can apply those things. Like first one is linear relationship should be there within the data. So first regression assumption is that there should be linear relationship within the data. Linear relationship means that your x and y when you are plotting in a graph, okay, or like when you are taking x and y both the things, they should be linear with one another. Means when x is increasing y should also increase in this similar pattern. So otherwise there will be no linearity. So that's where like you have to see if your data is linear or not. That's what we assume before doing means after like we assume before doing linear regression that okay our data is linearly related, so there is a linear relationship. That's the first assumption. Okay, so any doubt in that assumption?
No.
Okay, so now to calculate to find out that assumption, we do np dot corr coef. That is, there is a function in numpy corr coef which stands for correlation coefficient. Now, when you use that function, it actually does a test. That test is called as Pearson R test. Okay, it's just the test name is Pearson R, or it's also called as R test. We write it in small letters, so that's why like usually it's also called as small r. Okay, so that's a test which you do to see how much positivity is there or is there negativity within the data. So now if that r is giving you a positive value which is greater than 5.5, that means the linear, it's very very linear. And if it is less than zero point 0.5, around 0.3 0.2, that means your data is scattered like that. So that's what we can figure out from that r value. So that is your correlation coefficient. So that's how you test your linear relationship. So that's the first assumption which is there. Now coming to the other assumptions, the other assumption is that our data should be multivariate normal. Okay, multivariate normal means when you are taking multiple variable, it should be very much near to your normal distribution. Like overall, when you are taking all the values, it should be very much near to normal distribution. So that's what is like one more assumption which we are taking in regression. So now if your variables are not normal, then you can say that okay, there is no proper relationship between, means there will be lot of skewed data, means your data will be very far from the actual data set. So now to check that, we did a test, like you can do a test called as Jarque-Bera test. So Jarque-Bera test is a kind of goodness of fit test which tells you how close your like data distribution is towards the normal. Okay, like when you take all the variables, how close it is towards the normal. Like is it skewed or is it less skewed? Is it like highly skewed or is it less skewed? If it is less skewed means it very much near to normal distribution. If it is highly skewed means data is very far. So what is skew? What is skew?
Skewness, we can check the skews could be like what is the like it is the skews two types, positive skews and negative skews.
Yes.
So yeah, where is the if the median is greater than is sorry if a median if mean is greater than median then is a negative skew. If like mean is less than median then positive skew.
Mean is greater than median, then positive skew. Mean is less than median, then negative skew. Like that. Okay. Positive skew means mean will be higher.
Mean will be no, I said opposite.
Yeah, we told the opposite. Mean
Hmm.
will be higher when it is positive skew. But
Okay.
what is skew? What is that skew? Skew means, see, skewness means asymmetry within a statistical distribution. Okay, asymmetry within a statistical distribution means when you are distributing your data, okay, there is some asymmetry distribution, means data is concentrated on one part, okay, not on, no, not properly distributed, means data is not you don't have equal distribution of data in the lower part as well as higher part. That means your data is either distributed all data on the higher side or most of the data on the lower side, like that. So that means your data will be skewed, means you see like one type of observation, means more data will be concentrated on one side. Like any real time example will be skewed. Like if you take suppose patients having like diabetes, okay, so now if we take the diabetes data, like very few patients will be there who are young patients, most of them will be old patients. So now here, like here, if you take the age distribution in that, you will see, okay, most of them are falling on the higher side. So that is negatively skewed, like that. Okay, so here this kind of skewness tells you like how asymmetry your distribution is. Is it like very much asymmetry? Is it like less asymmetry? Those kind of things. Getting
Yeah,
skewness. So
yeah, I
here,
think
here this assumption like multivariate normal, this checks like whether it is very highly skewed or it is like very much near to normal distribution. If it is near to normal distribution means like data is well distributed on both of the sides, like positive or negative, or you can say lower or higher. Okay, like that. So that's what this is one important thing, that is multivariate normal. Okay, we also do a test that is Jarque-Bera test. Now here we did OLS test. Like earlier we did a OLS test. In that OLS test it gave us Jarque-Bera test. It's also called as goodness of fit test. It tells you like how good the model is. Like if your values are very much near to 2, like it will be coming within 0 to 4. Jarque-Bera test always gives you value within 0 to 4. If it is coming near to 2, somewhere near to 2, that means it's very much towards normal distribution. That's what we can say. Okay, like p-value in Jarque. Now the next
Swaroop, Swaroop, what is a p-value?
p-value means probability value.
Okay.
P-value anywhere you see, right? That's a probability value for the distribution. Like we do t-test. In t-test, we have a like p-value for that. Z-test has a p-value for that. Like that, everything has a p-value. Okay, see, Zarcubera test, like everything, whatever test you do, will be period. So Zarcubera test doesn't this one. Sorry, this like I told you wrong. Like the range of Zarcubera test is not 0 to 4. It is 0 to 100. Okay, like that. If your p-value, like that is your p-value, if your p-value is greater than 0.05, that means it is towards normal distribution. If your p-value is less than 0.05, that means it is not towards the normal distribution. Okay, if your p-value is greater than 0.05, that means your data is towards the normal distribution in Jarque-Bera test. And if your p-value is less than 0.05, that means it is not towards the normal distribution. Are you getting this?
Yes.
Okay, so these are the two tests. So one is your correlation coefficient for linear relationship, then multivariate normality. We did this Jarque-Bera. Then next one is that there should be no little or no multicollinearity. Okay, so one more assumption is that there is no or little multicollinearity. So now multicollinearity means when your data is multicollinear, means if your data is very similar, means you have similar type of data, like whatever independent variables you are taking, you have similar type of observation, means data are falling on top of one another. That will be multicollinear. So we assume that it's not there. We assume that it's not there, or if it is there, it's very less. That's what we assume. Now to do the test, now to check if the data is multicollinear or not, which test will you do? This comes in interviews also. They ask you like which test will you do to check the multicollinearity within a data. What is that test called? We did yesterday, right? What's that test? What's the name of that test? Can you recall? The test was VIF. We did VIF, right? Variance inflation factor. Do you remember?
Yes, variance and inflation factor.
Okay, so that variance inflation factor is used to check the multicollinearity. It is used to test multicollinearity within a data set. Okay, like that. So they ask you like what is that test you will use to check the multicollinearity within a data? That test is called as variance inflation factor. Okay. So now here three assumptions we saw. One is no linear relationship should be there within x and y. Second is multivariate data should be multivariate normal. Third is no or little multicollinearity. Okay, then we have something called as no autocorrelation. Now, no autocorrelation is the fourth assumption. Now, no autocorrelation means that say autocorrelation. What is autocorrelation? What is autocorrelation? Autocorrelation means when your data, like when your residuals are not independent of one another, then it will be called as autocorrelated. Means they are not independent of one another. They are falling on top of one another. They are automatically correlated. Okay, so when your residuals are not independent of one another, that means there is autocorrelation. So we assume that okay, residuals are independent of one another. That means whatever errors we have, they are different. They should not be same. Errors are different. Okay, that's what we say in autocorrelation check. So now to check autocorrelation in OLS, there is a test. Okay, that test is called as Durbin-Watson. Okay, so Durbin-Watson test is there to check the autocorrelation within a data. Okay. So this Durbin-Watson always lies within 0 to 4. Like here we have to see like our Durbin-Watson test, it will always lie within 0 to 4. So that's our Durbin-Watson test. So like if you are getting value near to 2, that means there is no autocorrelation. If your value is far from 2, that means there is some autocorrelation. Okay, so these are certain tests which we do in this one. The next one is the fifth assumption is homoskedatic. Homoskedatic is the last assumption. Okay, so here homoscedastic means your residuals are equal across the regression line. That means you have almost equal amount of distribution of residuals in positive side of regression line as well as negative side of regression line. That means if you have equal distribution of residuals on both the side means your regression line is going through the center of the data. Otherwise, if you have more data on one part, that means this regression line is not going through the center. That means model is not good for linear regression. Okay, so that's what we can figure out. So now to check this, we have residual plot. Using residual plot, you can verify like if you have equal amount of distribution of data on positive as well as negative side. Okay, it should not be like exactly equal, approximately equal like that. Okay, getting all these 5 assumptions.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so that's what we saw last class. So now today we will be looking into categorical data analysis. Now see, like we did this regression, this linear regression. In that, if you recall, our dependent variable was continuous. Whatever dependent variable we took were continuous. Like first we did univariate linear regression. In that, we were finding out what is the weight of brain based on head size. Like if you take the size of head, like if you measure the head size, what is going to be the weight of brain. So that's what we were measuring. So that is like weight of brain is nothing but a continuous value. Like weight for everyone will be different. Okay, most of the people will be different. So those are nothing but continuous values. So similarly, we did one more multivariate linear regression. In that also, if you recall, like we had this data set, that is math, read, write. Those cores were there, and like in that, our dependent variable was write and write scores. That is writing scores. So in that also, like if you see, writing scores are nothing but all numbers, and those are all continuous numbers, like continuous values. So that dependent variable was also continuous. Now for continuous data only you can use linear regression. Okay, only for continuous data study. Like if your continuous data study is linear with your independent variables, then only you can do. But those are continuous data. Like your dependent variable was continuous there. But what if your dependent variable is categorical? Categorical means like suppose you have to predict if an animal is dog or cat. Okay, so dog or cat. So it's categorical. Suppose you have to predict who is going to win the election next, election coming year. Okay, is it BJP or Congress or JDS or any other party? So it's like again categorical. Okay, similarly, suppose you have to figure out okay, who is going to win in a IPL match. Okay, so it's like RCB or KKR or Mumbai Indians. So it's like again categorical. So when you have categorical data in your dependent variable, means you are targeting categorical variable. In those kind of scenario, we have different kind of algorithms to be used. When your data is continuous, means dependent variable is continuous, then we have different kind of algorithms to be used. Are you getting? Are you getting this?
Yes.
Okay, so now see here, like most of the thing in real time will be categorical. Most of the thing. Okay, like whatever you see, most of the real time problems will be categorical. Okay, to figure out if someone has diabetes or not, to figure out if someone has cancer or not. Okay, to figure out if somebody is going to book a cab or not, to figure out if somebody is going to register for a website or not. Okay, so like most of the thing, whatever you will be looking at, most of the problem statement in real time are categorical. Now understanding and studying categorical data is actually tough, okay, as compared to continuous data, because continuous data will have a pattern. Like always they keep on like running in that similar kind of pattern, okay, where people try to understand the pattern to figure out okay what might be the next pattern. But when your data is categorical, okay, it becomes very difficult to analyze those data. So for that we have different lot of algorithms for categorical data study. Also, like there is deep learning. Deep learning is mostly used for categorical data analysis. Like when you have categorical data, mostly you will see deep learning will be implemented in those kind of scenarios. So here we are going to focus on categorical data now. We'll just see what is this categorical data, like how these categorical data are analyzed. So we'll do some basic on that. Then after that, once we learn machine learning and all, we'll be learning so many algorithms which are there for categorical data analysis. Like most of the algorithm, like recommendation engines or like anomaly detection, or figuring out if some there is a like fraud detection or credit risk, anything you see will be mostly categorical like that. Okay, so first, anyways, to start off with this, first will be looking at, okay, what is this categorical data? So now categorical data are those data which doesn't change over time, right? Categorical data are those data which doesn't change over time. With continuous data keep on changing, categorical data remains constant. Like mostly, if you tell different types of dogs, different breed of dog, saying okay, Shepherd, Pomerian, Terrier, like that, it will be like a categorical data, means it doesn't change. Like that, if I ask you, okay, different types of colors, okay, primary colors, so you will say, okay, red, blue, and green. So for your existing study, for any study you are taking on color, on primary color, suppose you are doing, you will take these three colors. So like that, here these are categorical. Like you are doing an election test, like in election, who is going to win, then whoever has taken part in that election, those guys will be taken into consideration. So that is nothing but they are again categorical. So mostly categorical data are those data which doesn't change over time. So now here, like within our like data analysis, it doesn't usually change. So now here, also one more thing is, most of the categorical data takes uh, text value rather than numbers. Okay, most of the categorical data you will find it to be text values. Like suppose BJP, Congress, JDS, all these are text values. These are not numbers. Similarly, if you take like breed of dog, Shepherd, Pomerian, these are all text values, not numbers. Okay, so most of the categorical data you will find it to be like textual values, like your character values. Those will not be numbers. Most of the categorical data in real time are also like that. Okay, but numbers are also there, but mostly like gender, male or female, that is also like again text value. Okay, so categorical data are usually represented with text value. So now to process this categorical data, like which are text value, we cannot compute text. Like we cannot compute in our computer male plus female or male minus female. We cannot do all those mathematics on text value. So for that we convert it to some specific number and we try to compute that. Okay, so that's what is categorical, like values are converted to numbers so that our maths can understand, like mathematical formulas can understand them, and it can work around that. Okay, so that's what we are going to see going ahead, like how do you convert into numbers, what are the different strategies to convert your variables to numbers. So there are different strategy. You might see in internet also somebody doing it in some way, it might not be the right way. So that's where like you have to understand, okay, how to actually convert your values to numbers. So that we are going to see going ahead. So now first to know like different types of category. Again, when your data is categorical, it might be of different types. Okay, so again, there are actually two types of categorical data. Like one is called as your binary, the other one is multi-class. Okay, binary means either yes, no, true, false, male, female. Okay, like that. These are all binary, means only two outcomes. Similarly, you have one more called as multi-class. Multi-class means more than two outcomes, like BJP, Congress, JDS, three outcomes. Like that, who is going to win in IPL match? Okay, like 7, 8 teams are there, so 7, 8 outcomes. So those like that also you can have binary or multi-class. Are you getting this?
Zero and one, like, so is that like two options available, and multi-class like multi.
Multi-class means when you have multiple categories, more than two.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so like that. So these are like two types of category. Again, like these are usually told, like see binary and multi-class, these names came up in machine learning, but in again statistics they have these names. That is nominal, ordinal, and dichotomous. Okay, nominal and ordinal are nothing but these are multi-class, and dichotomous is binary. So nominal means, here nominal means like when you have more than two categories, okay, which cannot be ordered, like you cannot order those categories, so then that is nominal. Ordinal means when you have more than two categories which can be ordered, and dichotomous means only two outcomes, only two category, like your binary, like yes, no, true, false, male, female, those kind of thing. Okay, so now nominal categories are like things which cannot be ordered. So now to understand this, suppose if I have a category saying, okay, different types of dogs, different breed of dog, to take that example, we cannot say like Shepherd comes first, Pomerian comes next, we cannot order them in any way. Similarly, here I have taken one example. If you see here, it's written nominal categories like different types of houses like condos, co-ops, bungalows, flats, apartments. So those are certain category. We cannot say, okay, condo comes first, bungalow comes next, house comes next, flat comes after that. We cannot order them. So these are all nominal categories. Similarly, if you see ordinal is also more than two, but which can be ordered. Okay, which can be ordered means like suppose if I tell you, okay, movie ratings. Okay, rating in a movie like 5 star, like 1 star to 5 star. So you can tell, okay, 1 star comes first, then 2 star, then 3 star, then 4 star, then 5 star. So you can order them. Those kind of categories are called as ordinal. And dichotomous means only two outcomes, that is yes, no, true, false. Getting? Are you guys getting this?
Yes.
So next is see here, like these are the three types of categorical data. Now when you have data in nominal, then some algorithms perform good for nominal data. If your data is ordinal, some algorithms perform good for ordinal again, and if you have dichotomous, there will be certain algorithms which perform good. In machine learning, they don't give quite focus to nominal and ordinal. It's like either it is nominal or ordinal, they call it as multi-class. Like in machine learning, it will be called as multi-class. Like when you have more than two classes, class means category. So when you have more than two category, yeah, it will be called as multi-class. Similarly, if you have only two category, it will be called as dichotomous, like binary. So that is called as dichotomous, that is binary classification. So for binary classification, certain algorithms are there. For multi-class, certain algorithms are there. Okay, so like that, based on the type of data you have, you can use that kind of algorithm. Okay, so next again, next to see with this categorical data conversion. Now see, there are two ways to convert your categorical data. Okay, like as I told you, like most of the categorical data will be text values. Okay, text values means like male, female, like character values will be there. Those will not be numbers. Okay, so now to convert those value to numbers, that is what is important, so that our like computer can understand, so that our mathematics can understand them and compute them. So we need to convert our values to numbers so that we can use them. So now here there are two types of thing to convert your value to number. One is using frequency table. There is something called as frequency table, using which you can convert your values, characters to numbers. The other one is nothing but boolean. Okay, you might have heard of boolean, like true, false, right? So boolean, like if your data is boolean, like here, sorry, if your data is categorical, you can also convert it to boolean. Boolean, you can tell, like suppose in a column you have gender, and suppose you tell, okay, if male is present, you will assign 1. If female is present, you will assign 0. So that is nothing but boolean, so that our model can compute this. Okay, saying if 1 is there, that means male. If 0 is there, it's female, like that. So like that, you can convert your categorical data, or you can convert by using something called as frequency tables. Now here, Frequency tables are nothing but these are certain things out of probability. So these are very easy thing. What it does is it just shows you the frequency of a value within your data. So frequency means how frequent something is present, like what is the occurrence of value within a data. Now suppose I have 50,000 data, in that I want to see what's the frequency of a particular value, suppose A. And in my 50,000 data, I have suppose A present 10,000 times. Then the frequency of A will be 10,000. So that is what is the frequency table will give us. So frequency table just gives us what is the frequency of that value. So using that frequency of a particular value, we can also calculate probabilistic models behind it, like statistical model. Like see, most of the statistical model which you come across are written with probability. So you can use frequency table, which will convert your values to numbers, and that will also help you out to tell how the relationship of things are within your data set, like how many times one particular thing is there within your data set, that you can find out. Or in frequency table, there is one more type of frequency table called as contingency table. Okay, there is one more frequency table called as contingency table. We are going to look into all those things. Contingency table means when you are taking two variables and comparing the frequency. Suppose I am checking, okay, how many times A is present also with respect to B. Like if you combine both, how many times they are present. So that is like contingency table, okay, which tells you the relationship between A and B. So those kind of things are also there. So now frequency table, you can find out the relationship between your data, and also like you can find out the occurrence of your data, and that number you can use for statistical analysis. So first, like we will be looking at how to convert our data to frequency table. So here to convert our data to frequency table, we can use something called as pd.crosstab function. Now this PD is nothing but pandas. In that we have something called as cross tab. So now this cross tab is used to just create frequency table, like it will just create how many frequency of a particular value is present within a data. So now we'll be doing this. So to do this, you guys can open up your Jupyter notebook, and we'll be practicing this. Okay, that is frequency table. So see, there are like two types of frequency table again. So one is called as one-way frequency table. The other one is two-way frequency table. One-way frequency table means when you are trying to convert one variable to take one variable which is categorical, which is in text value, that is character value, to numbers, like one particular column you are focusing, then it is one-way frequency table. Similarly, if you are focusing multiple columns, like if you have two columns, and you want to like convert by taking both of the column into consideration, then it will be called as two-way frequency table. Two-way frequency table are also called as contingency tables. So now here, like first you write down this code, that is import numpy as np, this part. Okay, and just download a data set from that data like drive folder, like which I have shared you. That file name is called as diamonds.csv. So we'll be taking this data set, and we'll be analyzing this data, this diamond.csv file. Just write down, I'll explain this code. Done.
Yeah.
Okay, so now see here like this one. So here I have taken first NumPy, then I'm importing pandas, then importing one more package called as OS. OS means operating system. Now this has OS related command, like in your command prompt in your Windows you have command prompt, right? So where you might be typing some commands like change directory, create a directory, remove a directory, create a file. Okay, so all kind of commands are there, okay, in any operating system. So now here you can also use those commands, and you can make use of those within your code. So for that I am importing this OS, then matplotlib for graphical visualization. Now here I am writing os.chdir, means change directory. So now here I'm saying using that OS package, and here I'm changing my current working directory. By default, current working directory will be your home folder. Like whatever file you want to import, if it is already there in home folder, you can just directly give the file name. So, but here as our file will be somewhere else, we have to give the entire path of the file. So here what I'm doing, I'm changing my working directory to dataset folder. Like here I'm saying C users, sorry, no, here I don't have C. So users, my name, then desktop, then data science and AI, then data sets. So now here in this data set, I have all the data sets. What are there for analysis, for doing any analysis. So now here to read this file, instead of giving the full path, okay, every time like in pd.read CSV, suppose I have to read multiple things. Okay, instead of giving the full path, now I am pointing to that folder, so I can directly read the file. So here I'm saying pd.read CSV directly diamond.csv. That's the file name. So like this, I'm reading it directly here. So now here within diamond.csv, we can see that we have 53,940 records and 10 columns. That's what is our data. Okay, so now any doubt in this OSCHDIR or anything? Any doubt is there?
Doubt. Actually, we are using like Google Colab right now.
Yeah.
So in this case, this OSCHTR is will work or not?
Yeah, in Google Colab also, actually, it works. Okay, if you are like within the Colab, like within the Google Drive, and you want to shift your like drives from one path to the other, there it works. Okay, like one folder to the other, like you want to change your folders, that works there as well. Okay, it will be like they use like all those systems of Google are actually nothing but Unix systems like Linux. Those are all Linux systems only. These commands work there as well, but it's not needed as you are using Google Colab. Okay, I was not like I didn't remember that. So here, anyways, like, are you able to read this file? Are you able to get this like OSCHDIR also what it does?
Saying that
It's like command prompt we are doing here for changing the
Yeah,
directories, right?
yeah. It's a command prompt. Okay, so now you are able to read the file. Are you getting the file? All these columns?
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, it's working for the Google Colab also.
Okay. Okay, so now see here, like within this data has 53,000 record of diamond. Okay, like it defines about the like it tells you about different properties of a diamond, which this data is taken out like from one company called as GIA. That's a hallmark company, okay, which rates the diamonds, and then they sell like then they give it to their customers. So here we have some 50,000 53,940 records of diamonds. So now here if you see, most of the data is actually categorical. Okay, like first data is our carat. So carat is also a kind of categorical data. Then we have cut of the diamond. Okay, so there are like something called as 4 C's of diamond, like it's defined by GIA. So they tell 4 C, okay, like which are nothing but different types of properties of a diamond. So like one is your carat, like carat means what's the weight of a diamond. Then cut of the diamond. Cut of the diamond means, is it a good cut? Is it a bad cut? Is it ideal cut? So like that they categorize cut. Then color of the diamond. Color also, like it starts from color E. E means like flawless diamonds, like completely transparent in color, to color diamond. Color diamond will be like your like K. Okay, it will be like K, M, like that. They have rating. So it starts with E and it goes like till Z. Okay, like that. So these are your like some color ratings they have for the diamonds. Then there is something called as clarity. Clarity, like if there is any inclusion within the diamond, so they have rated these things. This is also categorical, saying is it SI. SI means small inclusion is there. VSI means like very small inclusion is there. So like that different like clarity ratings are there. Okay, so this is also categorical. Then it tells you about the depth of the diamond, table of the diamond, price of the diamond, some XYZ, that is the symmetry of the diamond. Those kind of things are there within the data. So now here, like mostly we are not going to do any study on this data, but we are going to take these categorical data like cut or color or clarity. We can take this categorical data and we will convert it to frequency table, like which will be useful and we can use it for doing our analysis. So here we cannot take this text value, like we cannot take cut as ideal or premium, and we cannot do a mathematical calculation on that. So we have to convert it to some kind of number. So that can be done by using frequency table. So now here we are going to first do one-way frequency table. One-way frequency table means when you take only one categorical data, like suppose I will take color or I will take cut, okay, like any one categorical data, and I will convert it to frequency table. Then it will be called as one-way frequency table. So now here I am doing a one-way frequency table. Now you can write down this code here. I've written pd.crosstab. So crosstab function is used to convert your data to frequency table. And here I'm saying what data I want to convert. That's what we are passing in a argument called as index. So we are saying what is the index. Index is clarity, like data set of clarity. So here I want to convert my clarity column to categorical data. So here I am taking clarity as my data. Then column name, I'm just giving a column name here saying count, just a column name. So now here, like when you print the data, it says like your L1, okay, like sorry, I1, this is 741 records, IF 1790 records, SI1 13,065 records. So now all these are nothing but it just tells you what is the frequency of that particular value, means how many times that value is present within your data. So like that it will assign numbers to each of the categories. Okay, so that is called as frequency table. So frequency table just gives you the frequency of value. Now we can use these values to do any kind of statistical calculation what we want to do going ahead. Okay, so now like it defines about the properties saying okay, L1 is there, so L1 is there for 741, IF is there 1790, SI1 is there 13,065. So like that how many times it's there, it defines you about that. Okay, so this is what is one way frequency table. So you can do this. Any doubt on this one way frequency table? Done. Okay, so now here, like this is our frequency table. Like you can also plot like on top of frequency table. So here, as our data is categorical, we can plot a bar plot to see like which one is which value is the highest one, which value we have less. So like that. So here, just write my tab. My tab is nothing but your frequency table data frame. So on top of data frame, we can use matplotlib graph. So here I'm saying dot plot dot bar, so it will plot a bar plot on top of the data. So here it says the minimum value, like which is very less, which occurrence of the value is very less is L1, IF is like little bit high than that, SI1 is the highest of all. So like that we just get a visualization out of the data. So you can use this plot. Okay, that is my tab dot plot dot bar. Okay, done.
Done.
Okay, so now next is here we can also see what is the proportion of data. Like each of these are nothing but the frequency of data. So suppose I want to see like out of 100%, okay, which one is like highest, which one is lowest. So here you can write like my tab slash my tab dot sum. So that is nothing but individual value divided by total number of values. So it tells you here like 1% of data is L1, 3% is IF, 24% is SI1, 17% of the data is SI2. So like that it tells you in percentage how much values are present. Okay, like this also we can get the percentage out of frequency table. So actually frequency table we are converting so that we can associate a number to our data, but we can do something more, like we can find out this proportion of data. Also we can plot it in bar to see which one is more, which one is less. Okay, so you can do this.
Why we divided the by sum only?
To get the proportion. Now, how do you get the proportion of any data? Percentage. What is the percentage of distribution? Like if I tell L1, how much is L1 out of 100%? It will be, what will be the value? It will be 741 divided by total number of value into 100, right? So 741 divided by total number of value. It will give me the percentile of that value. Like how much percentage is that value present out of total.
Okay. Okay. Got
Okay,
it.
741 divided by 53,940. Sum will
Okay.
give you 53,940.
Okay.
Okay, done. Written this code. Okay, so now next is we'll see a two-way frequency table. So now what we saw was one-way frequency table. Now you will see two-way. Two-way means like when you have two categorical data and you want to take both of them into consideration and associate a number to it, then it will be called as two-way frequency table. So you want to find out the frequency of two categorical data combined. So here like I have taken this same function, that is pd.cross tab, and like I want to find the like two-way frequency between clarity as well as color. Okay, so here like this table is called as contingency table. So contingency tables are those tables which also shows you the relationship between two categorical data. Like here it shows me the relationship between how clarity as well as color is related with one another, like how each of the clarity is related with color. Okay, those kind of thing we can find out. So to do this, we can use this pd.crosstab function. Similar like index, pass one index. Then instead of column just giving a string value, you can pass some data. Like here I'm saying column equal to train of color, index equal to train of clarity. So now it is taking in rows clarity, in columns colors. So now here it is comparing like for L1 color, how many, for L1 clarity, how many color D is there? For L1 clarity, how many E color is there? For L1 clarity, how many F color is there? So like that it gives you the value. So this is called as two-way frequency table. or contingency table. Okay, so this is also useful. Contingency tables are very useful. Like when you want to study the relationship between two categorical data, you can take this two-way frequency table or contingency table. Okay, so you can do this. Okay, done. So now uh, okay, so now there is a test here, like we will be doing a hypothesis test on this categorical data. Okay, like hypothesis test is to like check a claim, like to find out the significance of something over the other. Now here, like I want to see if suppose you have two independent variable, you want to see like two categorical data, if they have any significance with one another. Okay, you can do this test called as chi-square test. It's called as chi-square test. So now this test is also called as test of independence. So this test will tell you the relationship between two categorical variable. Now here in chi-square test, okay, you have only categorical data. Like if you recall, like we did this hypothesis testing earlier, this is also a type of hypothesis testing only. In the hypothesis testing, if you recall, like we were having, suppose we have any categorical data, we always compare it with some continuous data like some numbers and we do the operation. But here in our case we have just character values. So now suppose I want to find out like if color and clarity has any kind of relationship among them. So if you see like color and clarity, both the columns are actually character values. Okay, they are all having text values. So now here, to understand if they have any sort of relationship or not, we can convert those data to frequency table. Then we can do something called as chi-square test on top of it. So chi-square test is done to check the relationship between categorical variables. Now here in chi-square test, your null hypothesis says that two variables, like whatever you have taken, like variable A and variable B, are actually independent of one another, means they are different. And like they are independent means they don't have some any sort of relationship. And if you the alternate hypothesis for that is they are not independent of one another. So now here, like I want to see if there is any sort of relationship between color or clarity, or they are completely independent of one another. Then we can do this test. So now here we will be taking color and clarity to figure out if they have any sort of relationship or they are completely independent of one another. So now to do this test, okay, you can open a new tab and write it down as chi-square test, okay, or test of independence. Then we'll be doing that test on this. Okay, or you can do in the same tab also, not a problem. So now first, to do that test, you can import this package, that is scipy.stat. So scipy is scientific Python. In that statistics package is there. So this statistics package has something called as chi2 contingency. So there is a function called as chi2 underscore contingency. Now here, using this function, we can do this chi-square test. So here I'm saying chi2 contingency, then pd.cross tab. As our data is in text values, we have to first convert it to numbers. So for that, we are converting to frequency table using cross tab. Here I'm passing clarity and color. So I want to find out if they have any sort of relationship or not. So I'm passing clarity and color. Then here I'm saying at the end that 0:3 means multiple outputs will be there. I'm saying, okay, start from 0th position, 0th index till 3rd position. So it will just give me 3 values out of the return from chi2 contingency. Okay, just do this test to figure out if there is any relationship. So just do this, then we'll see. Okay, just write down this code. You can write it down as chi-square test. So now here, see, first value what we get here is nothing but the test statistic value. That is nothing but your chi-square value. Okay, like whatever chi-square value gives us. Then the next value is the p-value. Next value is our p-value. Third is degree of freedom. So here the main value is our p-value. So now here, like if you see p-value is 0.0, which is less than 0.05. By default significance we take less than 0.05. As p-value is less than 0.05, should we reject the null hypothesis or should we go with null hypothesis? Okay, should we reject or should we go with null hypothesis?
It should be for accepting that it should be greater than 0.05. So we should reject it.
We should reject the null hypothesis. So null hypothesis tells here that variable a and b are independent. They don't have any relationship, but we can reject that. So we will say that both the variable here like clarity and color, they have some sort of relationship. They are not completely independent of one another. They have some sort of relationship with one another. Getting?
Yes.
Okay, so this is what we can figure out from this test. So this is also kind of hypothesis testing, which we can do when our data is categorical. So we can convert our data to frequency tables, then we can do this test on that. Okay, so we'll keep it till this for today, and next class we are going to start off with one more regression that is called as logistic regression. See, by then you do one task that is like we did this regression earlier, that is simple linear regression. Okay, so now there is a data set on that. It's called as salary underscore data. Okay, if you see like within the data set folder, you will find something called as salary data. So now there like I'll just explain you a bit on the data, then you can do that. So it's a very small data set. Okay, it's very easy to do. So now here yes, so this is the data set called as salary data.csv. So now it tells you based on the experience of individual how much salary they are getting. Okay, like that, like based on the experience how much salary they are getting. So now here you have to do this study to figure out like based on experience how much salary somebody should be getting. Okay, like that, the relationship between years of experience and salary is what you have to figure out from this data set. So just do this task and do the prediction on like years of experience and salary. So if I give a new years of experience, it should be able to predict me what's the salary for that. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll wind up here.
Good night.
Okay, bye. Yeah.